Hey guys, it's Tamara. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the stages of trauma recovery, and then I want to integrate some problem solving for you, because I think there's an element of problem solving when you're trying to heal from trauma. You really do have to know which direction you're going. And so once you process the grief and you go through the stages of grief, you really do need to know, okay, what step do I take now? So I'm going to help you with that in today's video. So thank you so much for coming back to my channel, for those who are subscribed. And for those who are new to the channel, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stick around with us and become a part of our growing and validating community. The benefits for you in today's video is that I'm going to highlight the three stages of trauma recovery, and then I also want to incorporate some problem solving for you, because I think that's going to be helpful. So when you're dealing with a traumatic situation, the first thing you do is try to find safety, right? You try to find some way to hide, go inside and not come out. You don't want to come out. You don't want to deal with pain anymore. You don't want to be further traumatized. You just want life to leave you alone, right? You want to hide. Some people do that by way of trying to manage their thoughts about daily life. They also try to do it by, hiding away and isolating or withdrawing. And then they also try to do it by self-medicating sometimes. So, right, substance abuse and alcoholism and, sexual rendezvous, whatever they can do to make themselves feel safe and somewhat stable, right, they will do. People who have struggled with trauma. But it doesn't really help, right? It backfires. You end up doing things that make you feel guilty, or you end up doing things that causes you to lose your family, causes you to lose your income, your sanity, or your sense of self. And so I think that's why it's important for you to understand the three phases of trauma recovery, so that you understand where you're at and what's happening to you. So let's just go ahead and jump in, all right? So the first stage of trauma recovery is known as safety and stabilization. Now, the whole idea behind this concept is, after you've experienced a traumatic event, you're constantly looking for safety and stability. And you may begin to do things that really aren't stabilizing or safe for yourself. But in the moment, after a fresh traumatic experience, you kind of gravitate towards things that are safe in your mind and stable. You're looking for some safety and some stability. Unfortunately, that doesn't always occur, right? Because if you're trying to self-medicate and deal with voids that are not filled, then you're going to do things maybe that are risky. You're going to do things that are not going to really help you in the long term. Really, what you're trying to do in this stage, the safety and stability stage, is calm central nervous system dominance, okay? Central nervous system dominance. You're trying to gain control over your amygdala, your limbic system, and some of the cortical regions in the brain. You're also trying to gain control over your fight or flight response. And sometimes that kicks on when it should not. You're really trying to pump the brakes in your mind, in your brain, and in your body. So yeah, this is stage number one, safety and stabilization. All right. The next stage is remembrance and mourning. Remembrance and mourning. And those, well, I guess I could say that's one stage, but those two things basically refers to being able to pause and process what has happened to you. Okay. Being able to look at the situation, the grief, the trauma, the loss, and say, okay, this has happened. So you're remembering what happened to you. You're able to lay it out and take a look at it, evaluate it, but then you're also able to mourn it, to grieve it, and to feel the emotional repercussions of having that experience. So this is the stage where you might experience the stages of grief, the depression, the anger, the denial, the bargaining, and you may get to a place of acceptance, and then you may rebound and go back to denial and depression. So this is usually the stage where the stages of grief come in, because you're remembering what happened to you, you're remembering the grief and the loss and the trauma, and then you're mourning it. So this is really the emotional process that can be emotionally draining. All right. Stage number 3, and this is the final stage, and the final stage is reconnecting or reconnection and integration. So the idea behind this third stage is you're actually taking what you are mourning over or grieving from and remembering, and you're kind of integrating it into your experience of daily life. This is really the post-traumatic growth stage. Really what you're doing here is taking your emotions, you're taking everything that's bothering you, and you're taking everything that you remember, and you're trying to integrate it into your overall experience of life. So this is where you go to therapy. This is where you go to your pastor. This is where you read your Bible and you journal and you read self-help books and you learn about loss and grief, and you learn about maybe suicide or depression, or you really get engulfed in advocacy and politics and policy change. This is the process where you're really trying to make an impact, whether that's on your own life or the lives of other people. So think about someone who may have lost their child to suicide. One of the things that you are likely to do just to kind of fight back and to integrate that loss of a child into your life, into your overall perception of this life, you may get on an ethics board or a policy board within your community that fights against adolescent suicide, right? Or child suicide. So you're really taking your pain and making it a weapon. All right. In this process or in this phase, there's no dissociation or very mild dissociation. And you're not as numb. You're not as numb. You're feeling it. And you're feeling it in a way that will help you make some changes. It will help you build on the loss. It will help you heal from the trauma. In stage 2, that's where you may start to feel dissociation and you may start to feel numb. Okay, so these are the 3 stages of trauma recovery, you can call it, or some kind of healing from trauma stages. And these are the stages that you're likely to go through. Now, I personally do not believe that they are linear. I do not believe that you're going to go step 1, step 2, step 3. You may start off by remembering the grief and the loss and mourning it, and then go to safety and stability, and then go to post-traumatic growth, right? So I don't think these are linear stages. I think, they can happen in a cycle. You can just cycle throughout many times in your life through these stages. Okay, so then how do you deal with this? How do you problem solve? How do you get through this? Well, when you get to the post-traumatic growth stage, that's where I think therapy is essential, because you can sit down with your therapist and say, I want to create a plan of action, and I want to do this in the next 90 days, the next 3 months, or 120 days, or the next 6 months. I want to be able to sit down and create a plan of action so that I can actually heal from this pain that I've been through. That's post-traumatic growth. In that sense, you would sit down with a therapist, or you would do it yourself. I'm going to walk you through it today. And basically what you're going to do is create these steps and create these concrete, realistic steps to getting you closer to more healing and to making use of your pain. All right. So the first stage that I want you to do, and this is problem solving, I encourage you to get a piece of paper and pen and do this with me. So the first step is defining the problem. You want to define the problem. Anytime you want to find a solution to a problem, you want to first define it. And you don't want to define it in general terms. You want to be as specific as you can. So I'm going to do this with you. So let's say, let me shut my door, guys. Hold on. All right. Okay, so stage number 1 is defining the problem. So I'm going to say for me, stage number 1 in defining the problem is this. Number 1, I have a son who is anxious. Okay, this is just for example, who is anxious and not sleeping because of the loss of his father while at a trial. So let's say you have a son who's anxious and can't sleep at night because his dad is an attorney, and the verdict was not what the family of the perpetrator wanted, and so they opened fire and they shot and killed your husband. So your son is not sleeping at night. Neither is he able to concentrate in school. He's very anxious because of this incident. So we're defining the problem. We're defining it. We're saying he's anxious. He's not sleeping. Okay. And we're also saying he lost his father, basically in a line of duty. So, okay. So that's defining the problem. Now, what you want to do in step number 2 is define how you want this problem to be corrected, okay? Define how you want this problem to be corrected. What do you want to happen? Okay, so what do you want to happen out of this situation, okay? You want to now take this defined problem and you want to say, I want my son to talk in therapy. Okay, that's part of the solution. Talk in therapy and begin to openly talk to me at home. Okay? There's the solution that you want. I want my son to talk in therapy and begin to openly talk at home, okay? That's the solution that you want to this particular situation. Now, your next part is to set a realistic, practical, concrete goal, okay? So number 3 is going to be set that concrete, practical goal. And what that's going to be is this: attend therapy 2 times a week for 3 months. Okay, boom, there's my realistic goal. Can you attend therapy for 90 days? Of course you can. Will your therapist allow you to attend sessions 2 times a week? Of course, as long as your insurance covers it and as long as you're open to that. Okay, so these are realistic, okay? Now you want to evaluate it. Number 4, that's step number 4. You want to evaluate it. You want to say to yourself, is this a possibility? Is this going to work? Is my schedule going to allow 2 times a week therapy sessions? Is the therapist going to be open to seeing my son 2 times a week? Am I going to be able to get him out of school some days that she has morning hours open and not evening? So you want to go through it and evaluate it. The more you evaluate it, the more realistic and concrete the goal gets, okay? And the more defined things get for you, so that you can actually carry out the action, because that's actually step number 5, and step number 5 is to do it. So you want to actually move forward. Well, what do you need to do in that instance? Okay, so you want him to attend therapy 2 times a week for 90 days. The first step to move forward is to pick up the phone and call a therapist. Hi, my name is Tamara. I have a son who's very anxious. My husband died in a line of duty. He's struggling with this. He needs a therapist to see him 2 times a week for 90 days. Is that a possibility? Can I come in for an evaluation? Boom. Okay, that's how you move forward, and then you wait on the therapist to get you scheduled and so forth. Okay, and last but not least with this process is you then want to evaluate the progress or lack thereof. So at the end of 90 days, you want to be able to go back over this and say, okay, is he sleeping? Well, we still have some issues at night, but he's sleeping for the most part. Is he still anxious? No, I think he's really gotten better with the anxiety. So you want to be able to evaluate the progress and the lack of progress, okay? So this is a really nice, concrete, structured way to problem solve. If you want more of a less complicated or therapeutic way to define a problem and to set some realistic goals, go ahead and Google SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T goals. That's another way to kind of get yourself moving toward the goal that you want. Okay, so I hope this was helpful to you. Thank you for being with me in this video today, guys. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up. Let me know if this was helpful to you in the comment section below. If you have questions about this or would like me to walk you through something like this, I would be happy to do that over email. So just feel free to let me know, and then we'll just go from there. So, all right, I'll see you Friday.